Amal and George Clooney, a power couple who truly needs no introduction, found themselves on a warm, breezy evening in Savannah, Georgia. The air was filled with the aroma of southern delicacies drifting from countless restaurant kitchens. The chatter of locals and tourists blended perfectly with the faint hum of street performers. Among the bustling dining spots, one cozy restaurant stood out, the Gardenia Table. This beloved local gem, known for its heartwarming southern dishes, captivated patrons not just with its cuisine but with its warm hospitality. It was this inviting atmosphere that brought Jasmine Monroe, a 24-year-old single mother, to its doors. Jasmine, with a radiant smile and an undeniable spark of determination, had been working day shifts at the Gardenia Table. However, when a colleague quit, she had to take on the busier evening shifts. To the head chef, Jasmine was the perfect substitute for Carol, as she moved gracefully between tables, balancing plates of fried green tomatoes and glasses of sweet tea with practiced ease. Yet, Jasmine's true strength lay in her poise and elegance, values that resonated with the team. Despite her hectic days and nights, Jasmine loved her job, not for the paycheck but for the connection it gave her to people. She dreamed of one day leaving the restaurant to open her own cafe, tirelessly working toward that goal while juggling the challenges of raising her 6-year-old son, Noah, alone. For Jasmine, most evenings at the Gardenia Table followed the same rhythm. But on this particular night, her life was about to change in a way she could never have anticipated. A seemingly ordinary reservation popped up in the system. However, the staff's curiosity piqued when they noticed the name attached to the booking, George Clooney. The revelation created a buzz among the workers. Unbeknownst to Jasmine, her ordinary evening of waiting tables was about to become a turning point. What followed was a moment of kindness so extraordinary that it left her in tears. It was a small gesture by George Clooney, one he would consider insignificant, but its impact on Jasmine was profound. Jasmine's life as a black African-American single mother had always been simple yet demanding. Her day began at 5 a.m., preparing breakfast for Noah and getting him ready for school, despite her exhaustion from late-night shifts. Her mornings were never free, often spent running errands, picking up groceries, or handling overdue bills. Weekends brought visits to her mother's modest retirement home outside the city. Despite the constant demands, Jasmine pushed through, driven by her dream of owning a cafe. Saving enough money seemed like a distant goal, but she never wavered in her resolve. The evening George Clooney arrived at the restaurant, Jasmine was overwhelmed. Her car had broken down weeks ago, forcing her to rely on Savannah's unreliable public transportation. On top of that, Noah's school fees were overdue, and she worried constantly about making ends meet. Only those closest to her knew the full extent of her struggles. Yet, Jasmine managed to keep her emotions in check, hiding them from her work. That night began like any other, with the usual rush at the Gardenia Table. Jasmine moved effortlessly through the dining room, taking orders and serving plates of shrimp, collard greens, and fried catfish, always offering her signature warm smile to guests. By the time she cleared the pending orders, she paused to take in the restaurant's rhythm, finding peace in the moment. This tranquility was short-lived, however, when her colleague Amber excitedly leaned in and whispered, "Jasmine, you're not going to believe this, George Clooney just walked in." Jasmine froze, processing the news. Like many, she had heard a lot about the Hollywood star. Little did she know, this encounter would become a defining moment in her journey. Movies often portray larger-than-life characters, but seeing one step into her restaurant was not something Jasmine imagined for her usual Wednesday evening. She and her colleague, Amber, exchanged looks of disbelief before Jasmine turned her gaze toward the door. There stood George Clooney in the flesh. It was a heart-stopping moment for Jasmine. After all, it was George Clooney. Who wouldn't be awestruck? No one could have imagined him casually visiting the heart of Savannah, let alone dining at the Gardenia Table. While the restaurant had hosted a few celebrities in the past, George Clooney was on an entirely different level, the kind of celebrity other celebrities aspire to meet. This encounter felt surreal, yet Jasmine knew she had to contain her excitement and maintain professionalism. She had admired Clooney for years, not only as an actor but also for his humanitarian efforts, which made him even more charming in her eyes. Before approaching his table, she took a deep breath, observing the man in front of her. Clooney was dressed simply in a black jacket, jeans, and sunglasses perched on his head. His relaxed demeanor exuded confidence, as though he commanded the very air around him. When Jasmine smiled at him, Clooney returned the gesture with a smile so warm it felt like he had mastered the art itself. "Good evening, sir," Jasmine greeted. "Welcome to the Gardenia table. My name is Jasmine, and I'll be your server tonight." Clooney's eyes lit up with kindness as he replied, "Thank you, Jasmine. It's a pleasure to be here." She led him to a cozy corner booth by the window, where the soft glow of the hanging lights reflected in the glass. Handing him a menu, she recommended a few signature dishes, including the crab cake and the house-made cornbread, before asking what he'd like to drink. "Sweet tea," Clooney said with a smile. "I've heard it's a must-try in the South." Jasmine nodded enthusiastically, assuring him he wouldn't be disappointed. As she walked back to the kitchen, Jasmine couldn't resist glancing back at Clooney, who appeared completely at ease, scanning the menu. Nearby diners, gradually noticing his presence, discreetly brought out their phones to snap pictures. Clooney, aware of the attention, smiled and waved at a few children, adding to his approachable charm. When Jasmine returned with his sweet tea, Clooney thanked her sincerely, and they shared light-hearted conversation about the weather and Savannah's unique charm. To Jasmine's surprise, Clooney wasn't the high-maintenance celebrity she had expected. Instead, he was warm, approachable, and genuinely curious about the history of Savannah and the dishes at the Gardenia table. As the night went on, Clooney savored his meal of gumbo and fried chicken while Jasmine checked in periodically to ensure everything was perfect. Despite her efforts to remain professional, she couldn't help but admire his humility and the effortless way he connected with people. Clooney wasn't just a famous face, he was someone who valued genuine human connection. For Jasmine, the evening was a refreshing escape from her struggles, but it wasn't over yet. As the dinner rush subsided and Clooney finished his meal, Jasmine discreetly placed the bill at the edge of the table. "Take your time," she said with a smile, giving him space to settle the check. From a distance, she watched as Clooney paused, pen in hand, writing something on the receipt. After folding it neatly and tucking it under his plate, he stood and caught her eye, thanking her warmly. "Thank you, Jasmine. The food was wonderful, but your kindness and professionalism made it even better." Jasmine felt her cheeks flush as she replied, "It was my pleasure, Mr. Clooney. Thank you for dining with us. I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay in Savannah." Although her response was polished and professional, her emotions ran deeper. She watched Clooney leave the restaurant, offering a small wave and his signature charm as he departed. But the story didn't end there. After gathering herself, Jasmine returned to clear the table. She lifted the plate and unfolded the receipt, expecting the standard total and perhaps a modest tip. What she saw left her breathless, a $1,000 tip accompanied by a handwritten note. It read, "Jasmine, you are more like a star that illuminates the night sky. Thank you for bringing such bright radiance to a really dark place of mine. George." As the words sank in, tears welled up in Jasmine's eyes. If you are familiar with George Clooney's history, you'd know that he hasn't always been a celebrity with an open and free nature. Strip away the charm and fame, and you'd find a man who is quite comfortable with solitude. This tendency stemmed from past experiences and relationships. Clooney's early years in Hollywood were a tough climb, marked not just by rejection but also by betrayals in the industry. What many don't realize is that these challenges started with his first marriage to actress Talia Balsam, which ended in divorce. Afterward, it took years for Clooney to trust anyone enough to pursue a relationship beyond fleeting flings. His friends eventually helped him find companionship in his wife, Amal Alamuddin. Yet, even marriage didn't entirely change his guarded approach, especially in public settings. Despite this, Jasmine managed to connect with Clooney during their brief interaction. This wasn't by chance. Clooney had visited some of the finest restaurants in the country, but he had never engaged in such a heartfelt conversation with a stranger. Jasmine's warmth and genuine persona had evidently broken through his defenses. Clooney must have sensed something extraordinary about her, something that set her apart. For Jasmine, simply bringing light to a Hollywood star's dark moment was an accomplishment she could hardly fathom. The tip Clooney left her wasn't just about money, it felt like validation. It was as if someone had finally seen her struggles and wanted her to know she wasn't invisible. As she stood at the table, staring at the note, her emotions overwhelmed her. Amber, the hostess, noticed Jasmine trembling and approached her. "Jasmine, you okay?" she asked. Jasmine could only nod as tears streamed down her cheeks. Wordlessly, she handed Amber the note. Upon reading it, Amber's face lit up in astonishment. "Oh my gosh, Jasmine! This is incredible," she exclaimed. Amber quickly signaled the other staff members to gather. Jeffrey, the head chef, rushed in to restore order amid the commotion, but when he heard what had happened, even he couldn't help but celebrate. Hugging Jasmine, he thanked her for her dedication to the restaurant. To mark the occasion, the team commemorated the moment with a bottle of wine. While some guests noticed the buzz and speculated it was the George Clooney effect, the drama soon subsided for them, but not for Jasmine. When her shift ended, Jasmine sat alone at a corner table, clutching the receipt like a treasure. She reread Clooney's heartfelt words, which reminded her of her son Noah. Although the tip wouldn't solve all her financial troubles, it was enough to cover Noah's school fees, and she was deeply grateful for that. Yet, it wasn't the monetary value that moved her most, it was the weight of Clooney's kind gesture and the significance of his words. His note reminded her that even small acts of kindness could have a profound impact. As days passed, news of Clooney's visit to the Gardenia table spread like wildfire. Some heard the story directly from Jasmine, while others learned about it from her colleagues. People who heard the tale considered her lucky, but few understood the depth of its impact. In the weeks following the encounter, Jasmine seemed transformed. She became more generous and willing to help those around her. Inspired by Clooney's gesture, she started offering free meals to single mothers and treating their children to desserts. The transformation extended beyond her workplace. At home, Jasmine became more intentional about creating joyful moments with Noah. They spent weekends at the park, built pillow forts in the living room, and laughed over their Sunday morning experiments with burnt pancakes. Clooney's note had reminded her that life wasn't just about surviving, it was about finding joy and embracing the journey. Cherishing the connections and moments that made life meaningful, Jasmine felt inspired by Clooney's belief in her. She began taking steps toward her long-held dream of opening her own cafe. Jasmine started researching small business grants, sketching menu ideas, and attending community workshops on entrepreneurship. After the life-changing incident, things moved quickly. A few months later, Jasmine stood in front of a modest yet charming storefront. She gazed at the elegant script painted above the door, Noah's Nook Cafe. It was the culmination of years of hard work and resilience, her most prized possession. When construction was complete, the cafe's opening ceremony drew friends, family, and supportive customers. During her speech, Jasmine expressed her gratitude and shared her vision. This cafe isn't just about coffee and pastries. It's about creating a space where kindness and community thrive. I wouldn't be here today without the support and love of so many people, and they forever remain in my heart. The room erupted in thunderous applause, and tears of joy streamed down Jasmine's face. Her life wasn't perfect, but it had become fuller and more meaningful than she could have imagined. Clooney's note remained tucked in her wallet, a treasured reminder of that pivotal night. As she declared the cafe open, she realized it was everything she had dreamed of. Jasmine carried the lesson of that encounter into her business and personal life. Acts of kindness, no matter how small, can illuminate the darkest days and inspire transformation. Reflecting on her journey, she often thought about how her life might have continued on a path of struggle and self-doubt if not for Clooney's words. They reminded her of the power of viewing oneself with worth and possibility. Jasmine learned that in challenging times, the support of others, whether through words, actions, or belief, can spark something extraordinary. Her story became a quiet inspiration to those who heard it. Although Jasmine rarely shared the full details of her encounter with Clooney, its essence shone through her actions and outlook on life. She often wondered if Clooney remembered their brief but life-altering meeting, but in the end, it didn't matter. His impact on her life was undeniable, and she honored it by living with gratitude and a commitment to paying kindness forward. What do you think of Jasmine's encounter with George Clooney? Wouldn't you agree that she is a special person? If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, click on the next video displayed on your screen. You'll enjoy it.